I'm not important. The art is important. That's how I've always kind of looked at the work I've put out there. My name is Chris RWK. RWK stands for Robots Will Kill. I'm born and raised in New York, Staten Island. I'm an artist, painter, do murals, stickers, t-shirt design, just kind of all spectrum of it. As a person, it's funny, I don't want to say I've lost my personal identity because of the art and everything like that, but that's one of the reasons why I cover my face, because I like to kind of keep them separate to a point. I've always been an underdog. I've always kind of just championed the underdogs. I'm straight edge. I've been straight edge my whole life. I've never done any kind of drug, no drinking, no smoking, none of that. I was kind of like the outsider, I liked punk rock, I liked hardcore, I liked skateboarding, all that kind of stuff. I do get inspired by a ton of stuff out there. Family and friends is a huge inspiration because my interactions with people inspire the paintings, inspire the emotion that I want the painting to convey. And that's a whole nother thing. People might not see it in the paintings, but there's so many layers to those paintings. There's so much time that, happens in those paintings. By the time the viewer sees it, there's about 20 paintings underneath that one painting. I've had collectors who have bought a piece from me, and a year later they hit me up and they're like, and they'll send me a picture of just like a little cropped image. They're like, yo, I just realized this is here. And I'm like, that's incredible. So they're still finding little bits and little pieces. I was about 11. My brother and his friends started to get into graffiti. So, of course, I started to get into graffiti. But then I was kind of like taking mostly pictures and documenting what they were doing and their friends were doing. But then I started to kind of like mess around with it a little bit more, like when I was like 13. As soon as I figured out how to get off Staten Island and get on the ferry and get into Manhattan, that's what we did. Pretty much every weekend, and I was photographing everything.
It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. It is right if they say it's right.
So when I was in high school, I think it was my senior year, there was this art class that if you took it, it basically was like almost like a free class. The teacher said to me, what are you going to do for college? And I said, community college. She said, no, you're going to go to art school. I said, you're nuts. I was like, I don't know anything about art school. She said, don't worry about it. We'll put together, a portfolio, and then you're gonna apply to FIT in the city. I said, okay, So that's that whole year we worked on my portfolio. I got accepted into FIT, and then from there, I started to learn more about fine art and just other art styles, other artists, things that were outside of the graffiti world, outside of the comic and cartoon world. Abstract stuff like that. So it really kind of like furthered my interest in art. I wound up getting my BFA at Hunter. And then after that, I started to try and go to galleries and try to get accepted into shows and stuff like that. I would go to these galleries and I would want to show them my work. I'd show them my slides and all that stuff. And they didn't even want to talk to me because of my age. They were like, how old are you? And I'm like, what does that matter? It's like, I'm here to show you my work. That my age shouldn't matter. So I was pretty frustrated. So I go home. And that's around 2000. A friend of mine was doing websites, and websites really weren't that common back then. I was speaking to him, and he said, why don't we build you a website, and then that's a little bit easier to kind of get to people. Slides are a little tricky. I said, well, what if we actually opened it up and helped other artists who aren't getting shown, who aren't getting like a fair chance? So those artists who are overlooked aren't getting overlooked anymore. We had this catchphrase at the time that was, "You wouldn't give us a space, so we built one." Because that was really like my thing. It was like, these galleries wouldn't even give me a shot, so I wanted to give other people a shot. So my friend Kevin was like, "Oh, it's a great idea." He's like, "What do you want to focus on mainly?" And I said, "Well, graffiti." I had years and years of pictures. And he said to me, "What do you want to call it?" I was like, "I got the perfect name, Robots Will Kill." And he's like, "Yeah, but that's got nothing to do with art. Like, how are people going to know it?" I said, "It doesn't matter. Once it was something so interesting, people are going to look into it no matter what." The name Robots Will Kill, where that came from. So back in 1999, I was doing a art fellowship up in Vermont. So one night, I didn't feel like painting, so I was hanging out with my friend Chris RWK, who's an amazing artist. And he's working on a painting, and I'm just sitting there doing stickers. And my friend Chris looks at me and goes, "What do you think?" And I look up at his painting, and he had painted, it was a cell phone that looked like a human because it had like clothes on, and then he was holding up a little human to like where his ear would be. So it looked like the cell phone, and then the person switched places. So he goes, "What do you think?" And I just look at it and I go, "Ha, Robots Will Kill." And I just started writing it on all the stickers. So in the 90s, I was doing a lot of paintings that had the cube that every kid learned how to draw in school. You do the two squares, then you connect the lines, and every single kid did it. So I had a lot of paintings with that because I loved that callback to people's memories. So from there, towards like the mid 90s, I started to mess around with, instead of doing just the cube, turning it into a television, turning it into a radio, something else that everybody has a connection with. So it still had that same shape, and it still had the connection that people can, recall memories, recall their personal feelings. From there, towards the late 90s, those things started to turn into a square-headed robot. And he was very kind of static, and I didn't like how he was coming across. I didn't want it to be so stale, and I didn't feel like people could have a connection with this boxy robot. So I started to simplify him and give him the simple eyes, the hunch, the slunch, the slouch to the shoulders, the X where like the heart would be, the simplified antenna, stuff that would kind of show human qualities. He's trying to exist in the world, and he's trying to kind of figure out things just like a person would. And I feel like that's how like most people are. Most people are looking for a connection to something, whether it's another person, whether it's a pet, whether it's a job, anything. They want to get that connection. And I always wanted him and the other characters kind of be like almost everyday people that you would pass by on the street. And each of those people have a story, but you can't hear the story. And that's one of the reasons why like the human characters don't have mouths when I paint, because they have something to say, but nobody's there to hear it. There's the kind of the standard issue robot, and then there's like the skeleton robot. He's kind of there to remind people that, even robots have an expiration date, that everybody dies, as sad as it sounds, but everybody dies. And that actually ties to one of the things that I kind of live by now. It's a saying that my dad would say all the time, is "I'll be dead a long time." And then as I got older, I realized what he meant. He's trying to say that he's trying to make the most of the time we have. And that's kind of become my mantra in the past, especially a couple of past years. He passed away from cancer a few years ago. That hit me hard because he was like one of my biggest champions. He was one of my biggest supporters. He had faith in my work. Even though he told me to keep a 9 to 5 just so I had a paycheck, he had faith in my work. I don't sleep. I work a 9 to 5, which a lot of people don't know. I'm working at a job for 20 years. I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I leave my house by 7. I commute to work. I get there about 9. I work until 5. Then I commute home, get home about 7. And then I start doing all the stuff with my, family, doing dinner and see them for a little while. Then I start painting around 10, and I paint until about 2, 3 in the morning. I go to bed, wake up at 6, do it all over. something like the World Trade Center, that there's literally like thousands of people walking by every day. You know, when I was asked to do that project, the payoff for me was that when I was a kid, I used to go to Windows on the World with my dad. When that came up for me to do that, it was when my dad was sick. So for me to do that and have these pieces that I know are gonna be, you know, part of the foundation, that are gonna be part of the next tower. So it's incredible that that'll live on. And for me, that's just like, you don't get more New York than that. You know, it's like you're part of the New York underground. You know, it's incredible. 2022 has been kind of crazy. I pretty much had a solo show every month from May until December. I have a lot of vinyl toys that are coming out. Vinyl toys with Strange Cat toys, UVD toys. I'm working on a bunch of bronze pieces for some shows coming up. And it's incredible to kind of see the robot in this three-dimensional world and him actually kind of existing with us, not just us looking upon him. So that's really kind of like a big focus that I want to work on. If I'm walking down a street and I see a new tag, I see a new sticker, I see a new anything, I get amped, you know, I still get excited. It still means something to me. So even if it's a stupid sticker to somebody, it's literally like a piece of me that person took the time to take a picture of and post it. Took the time to look in and see who I am and give me the acknowledgement, which is incredible. And then it makes me want to go home and create. If I didn't love it, you know, 33 years later, I wouldn't be doing it. Who the hell sticks around for 33 years doing something, you know? I am Chris RWK. Robots will kill.
Years pass by, but still I can find prison of time. It's all in my mind. Years pass by, but still I can find prison of time. It's all in my mind. Look to the stars are too much.